What's going on, y'all? Sean McClendon, owner and lead tutor of MathSwap Tutoring, with an updated list of study tips for you. Now, this is for math, but this is also going to be applicable, at least a lot of it, for different subjects. Okay. Now, before I go any further, make sure that you like this channel, like this video, subscribe to this channel, share, all that kind of good stuff. Okay. Now that we have that out of the way, let me go ahead and give you these tips. Now, these tips will only help you if you apply them, but trust me, based on my experience, personally, as well as my experience with helping other students, these things are going to help you to become a better studier. Now, studying is not necessarily something that you just are born with. A skill, it's a skill that has to be developed. Now, some people might have a more they might kind of like come upon these kind of things more naturally than others, depending on whatever, how they grow up or whatever. But studying is not something that you can do or you can't do, based on ability. It is something that you develop as a skill. So understand that, and understand that you have to be intentional about developing the skill of studying. Okay. All right. Now, some of these are in a previous video I've recorded, so I'm not going to go very detail over them, but I'm going to give them to you pretty quickly. These first three. Study tip number one is do a lot of problems. Pretty self-explanatory. You kind of got to put the reps in. When it comes especially to math, you need to do a lot of it. Do a lot. Do problem after problem after problem, so you can kind of get used to knowing what to look for, knowing the skills to kind of pull out of your toolbox, so to speak. Do problems again and again and again and again and again. Okay. Number two, ask a lot of questions. Sometimes we get embarrassed in school if we ask questions. Some of us stay quiet. Some of us ask a lot of questions naturally because we're naturally inquisitive. Wherever you fall on that spectrum, ask a lot of questions. That's one of the main ways that humans learn in general. Okay. The teachers often say no question is a dumb question. The only question that is a dumb question is the question that you never ask. Okay. So ask a lot of questions because that will help you to understand more about the world around you. When you get that question answered, when you see something done in class and you don't understand and you know the question to ask, you think enough to ask, whatever questions you need to ask to get that understanding, that's going to unlock the answer to you. That's going to unlock your ability to, to understand what you're learning. Okay. So it's extremely important. Number three is teach it. Now, if you're trying to learn a certain kind of skill, say, for example, you're trying to learn exponents, and there's something about it that you don't get. If you get the opportunity, or perhaps you need to create the opportunity. You need to try to create the opportunity to teach it to somebody else. Now it seems like, well, how in the world am I going to teach something that I don't even know? But you need to try. Trust me, from my own personal experience. I'm an engineer, and so I've done lots and lots and lots of math. But what I found is, as I've gone back and tutored many students in the different maths that I learned along the way, calculus, pre-cal, trig, geometry, the algebras. As I've gone back, I actually have discovered that there are things about those that I have a deeper understanding of. I understand the why behind a lot of what I learned in grade school. So it helps. Trust me, that's something that I really learned here within these past 3 or 4 years since I've been doing this whole math swap tutoring thing. Now, number four, create thinking times. Now, what do I mean by thinking times? When I say thinking times, what I'm talking about is you need to create times in your day where you are literally doing nothing. Basically, you can also refer to this as daydreaming. Now, that seems like how in the world could that actually be productive? How could that be worth anything? But do not underestimate the benefit of just being present with nothing. I'm talking about no phone, no computer, no dings from coming from any sort of device whatsoever. Because we underestimate how many distractions we have. We underestimate how many things are competing for our attention and how many things we give into. Okay. And so what happens is you have so much information coming in, but when do you have time to allow that information to kind of cut off the pipeline of information so that the information that you have can kind of go into your long-term memory so you can sort it out and all that kind of thing. But a lot of us have mental indigestion, so to speak, because we have so many inputs all the time from everything. Again, that's social media and YouTube and music and um just all kind of stuff. It's hard to even kind of like quantify it these days. But we have so little time now to allow our information to solidify, if that makes sense in our brains. So like, even if it's like 10 minutes a day, I would suggest that you have moments where you just kind of sit and reflect. You know how it used to be when you were riding in your car. And it might be still the case for my young people watching this video, but you're riding in the car on a trip with your parents and just looking out the window, having nothing to do. Now, hopefully, kids still do that. That's what we used to do. We didn't have all these devices and stuff, but you're just looking out the window, looking at the woods, looking at the cars that go by, looking at the sky. You're just doing all these different kind of things, or really, you're not doing anything. You're just reflecting, and your brain is kind of going and doing different kind of things. And this is like so valuable for the brain. Tip number 5 kind of like is similar. Sleep on it. Okay. Sometimes, well, let me go this way. When we sleep, and I've talked about this before, our brains are definitely kind of going and converting short-term memory to long-term memory. They're connecting ideas and thoughts to things like new ones to things from the past, all of this stuff. That's why you have that phenomenon like what I experienced within the past year or so, where you go to sleep and you were trying to figure out something you were working on, and you couldn't figure it out, and then you wake up with the answer. That's a real thing. And I'm just amazed. Like, that's just such an amazing thing to me. That's why I talk about it so much. But sleep on it. So, like, you have a problem or whatever, like, put in your work, try to figure it out, do your study, you know, and then go to sleep and get good sleep. I think most teenagers probably need at least about 8 hours of sleep, probably even more. Okay. So you kind of have to like do your own self study to know how much sleep you need. But like I'm talking about uninterrupted, undistracted sleep. Okay. With no phones or anything like that around. Sleep on it. Because I promise you, it seems trivial, it seems unrelated, but it is related. And you want to get good sleep, especially when you're trying to figure something out, because sleep will help you to figure out solutions to your homework, solutions to, whatever it is you're learning. Okay. So that's 5 tips. And the other tip that I wanted to offer is kind of related to what I've just talked about is pay attention to your distractions. I just wanted to have a separate tip for this. Pay attention to your distractions. A lot of times when we're studying, we're simultaneously um on our phones. We're simultaneously having other windows up, looking up other things. We have our brains sectioned off in all these different places at once. Like, we might be used to that. We might think that we're good with that, but like I'm a firm believer that we don't do well with multitasking. I'm a firm believer that just because we can do it doesn't mean that it's good for us. It doesn't mean that it makes us better. I think we underestimate how much that impairs our ability to think. Now, I will say this: there are some people out there who claim that listening to music and stuff like that is actually good for them while they study or whatever. Now, and I believe there are some studies that might support that. This is what I'll say. Consider this. If you feel like you have to listen to something, I would encourage you to try to go silent. Like, give it a real chance. Like, give it a few days or so. And another thing I'll say is consider the use of either white noise or the use of instrumentals, especially instrumentals that are kind of nature based or maybe lo-fi where it's not a lot of busyness in the music and whatnot. Consider that kind of stuff because if it's words or if it's a whole lot going on in the music or whatever, like it's probably a whole lot more on in your brain um than you realize. But if you're using white noise or if you're using like some sort of, you know, uncomplicated music, lo-fi as they call it, lo-fi music or whatever, I have heard that like that kind of stuff can help you to kind of like focus a bit, especially for certain people more than others. Okay. So, anyway, those are the 6 tips that I have here in 2024-2025 school year to help you to learn to study. Because remember, studying is a skill, studying is not something that you're born with. You can develop it. Okay. It's not just that some people are good at it and some people aren't, and they just got the luck of the draw. If you will learn and use these 6 tips and actually develop the study skill, you may be surprised at how well you do this year. And you might be surprised at how much it benefits you in life. If this helps you, share it. Okay. Hey, thank you for watching this video. If you need math tutoring or you need SAT math help, look in the description to find out how you can sign up today. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you stay in touch with MathSwap Tutoring on YouTube. Have a good one.